Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
This is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we drive a bus through a botanical garden, because this week we watched Let's Kill Hitler.
Written by Steven Moffat.
Directed by Richard Sr.
And aired on August 27th, 2011.
Not like Richard Sr. Sorry for interrupting, but like not like Richard Sr., like the Richard Sr. and the Richard Jr. Like his last name is actually Sr. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Alright, glad you clarified that. Again, I didn't know for sure that this episode was written by Steven Moffat. I just said it, but like it's so blatantly obvious that I was pretty confident.
Yeah.
There's basically no other Doctor Who writer who would write something like this. And this episode is all the more glorious for it.
Yeah, I strongly disagree with that statement. I can find nearly nothing redeeming in this episode and continue to dislike it to this day from the first watch through.
Oh, well, I love it. And this just raises my standards of expectation for what's coming in this season.
Well, that's good. Then you could be hurt more when it sucks. But, you know, the production of this, as I looked it up, was Moffat was like, I want to do something that's not as dark as the start of the season to start the second half of the season.
So let's put Hitler in the episode.
Yeah, apparently he was inspired by The Lost Crusade, you know, the third Indiana Jones movie. And how Hitler was just like a random side character in that Indy just like accidentally ran into, and he wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, but in that it kind of works.
Yeah.
In this, it doesn't necessarily work.
Oh, I don't think it works at all.
Still love the episode, but it doesn't necessarily work.
It's not even unnecessarily. It just flat out just doesn't work.
Well, here's the thing. Steven Moffat also said that he wanted to bring a more lighthearted approach to this sort of mid-season opener. But, like, I question that entire line of thinking considering the content of this episode.
Considering, like, when you really think about it, how screwball and messed up the things that this episode implies are.
Yeah. I mean, not only that, like, I think you're referring to the, like, weird time travel / slightly, or not slightly, but, like,
but the super compressed in one episode, they completely break the Church of the Sound's mental conditioning of River Song in the span of about 45, actually no, exactly 32 minutes.
It wasn't a real-time thing, was it? I'm pretty sure.
No, but the TARDIS gave the Doctor 32 minutes to live, and that's how long it took to change River Song's mind.
Yeah.
So that's how I can tell you it's exactly 32 minutes in universe.
Yeah, no, I was just wanted to point out it wasn't like a 42 situation where it's actually real time.
No.
Which 42 wasn't exactly real time, but it was close.
Maybe it would have been better if it was. The episode begins with him driving through the cornfield, and the reason why I mentioned this is because that was actually the final thing filmed for this entire season, because they needed
to wait for the corn to grow.
They had to wait for the corn to get high enough that they could do that.
It wasn't like corn as in the vegetable corn. It was corn as in like grain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they filmed it on July 10th and 11th, so like a month before this went out. And yeah, like I said, it was the final thing that was filmed for this entire season.
Yep.
So that's kind of fun, I guess. You get to drive through this cornfield. Get paid to drive through this cornfield.
Get paid to make crop circles. Which is what Amy and Rory are doing. They're signaling to the Doctor by writing his name in this field.
You don't know that till the Doctor lands, though, and he pulls out this tabloid, and he's like, seriously? And it's got a picture of the crop circle on it, and
it spells the Doctor's name.
You kind of zoom out, and you see this big Doctor, like
Doctor Who logo,
not carved into the grains, but like, you know, the flattened grain spelled Doctor, and the Doctor's landed the TARDIS in the middle of the O, which for some reason Amy and Rory have decided to make filled in, which was interesting.
Yeah. Maybe Rory just went like drift crazy.
Tokyo Drift. Leadworth Drift. Fast and the Furious 9, Leadworth Drift. It's just an entire movie of Vin Diesel and The Rock drifting through cornfields for 2.5 hours.
It's good that that franchise needs a desperate change of location. You know, all those cityscapes that have been constant throughout the franchise.
Well,
getting a little boring.
Fate of the Furious had like a submarine and they were driving across the ice and they were in like, I think it was Alaska or Russia or somewhere. You know what? That movie was so unmemorable that I don't even remember.
Well, I watched, what was it? Was it called Fast Six? Or was it Furious Six? I don't even know.
Wasn't it Fast 6, Furious 7? And then 8 of the Furious?
Yeah, yeah, it was. And I completely forgot what I was going to say about that movie.
Well,
but
the only
that's
thing
okay.
I remember about that franchise is that Vin Diesel got all upset because The Rock came in and the franchise got good when The Rock joined. And so the director's like, we should give The Rock more screen time. And Vin's like, hey, but I'm an actor in this franchise too.
Was it because of The Rock, though, or was it all just a coincidence?
No, it was like Vin Diesel had this beef like with The Rock specifically.
No, I mean, like, did the franchise getting good have anything to do with The Rock? Or was it just like, hey, The Rock joined when the writing improved or something?
I suppose it could be a coincidence. But then again, they cast The Rock in the movie for the script that had the better writing, which presumably also had better casting. So
All right, I'll just go with it.
anyway, the Doctor lands and all of a sudden they hear sirens and we see a Corvette driving through the cornfield.
Right, because I really like this. So in the newspaper, which is probably from a week or a few
future.
weeks out, yeah, there's a line in the message that wasn't drawn by Amy and Rory, and they go like, "Oh, what's that? Like we didn't draw that," and that's when we see this car speeding towards them. I really like this. When they zoom out, it almost looks like the new logo in a way with the line through it.
Yeah, the new as in like the
2018 logo.
13th Doctor one, yeah.
Yep.
Which is a really interesting logo, I think.
Yeah, it is. Twitter has a specific hashtag for it that replicates the line.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Twitter always does something for whenever there's a new season of Doctor Who now. Interestingly, I remember for series, 10, they did a little TARDIS emoji. And then for the Christmas special, they did a little TARDIS emoji with a Santa hat on top.
I remember that one. Now they have the Jodie Whittaker
face
emoji.
You know you've really made it when your face is an emoji.
Yeah.
But this car pulls up and we meet Mel's. And
and I was disappointed that it wasn't Mel from the classic show. Mel Bush.
Except that's Melanie, not Melody. Wow, that's weird. And this is where... What is that saying? And this is where my troubles began, or something like that.
Little did I know at the time that this episode was gonna suck. No, I don't think it sucks.
I thought I would like the episode, and the narrator, he didn't.
Yeah, so Mel's is Amy and Rory's sort of childhood friend who we've never heard of.
Okay, wait. This is the moment that I want to talk about here because, she's like, oh, I have a gun, you have a time machine, let's go kill Hitler. And we get the title sequence, and then we get like a flashback. And this is a flashback of Amy growing up with Mel's. And this is where we learn that not only is Mel's their childhood best friend, number one, who we've never heard of. Number two, Mel's is way more obsessed with the Doctor than Amy ever was.
And has a probably huge criminal record.
Yeah, 3 has a huge criminal record. 4, Amy apparently consistently breaks her out of, or pays her bail or bond so she can get out of jail, which is again never been mentioned to this point. This is like a huge retcon.
I wouldn't call it a retcon, just something. It's one of those. It's like the TARDIS breaks thing, where it's like it's not really a retcon. It's just a dart that you don't want in the dartboard. I
feel like
it,
this
though.
is a retcon, though, because we never hear about Mel's, and the main reason why that bothers me is because she's way more obsessed with the Doctor than Amy ever was. And, the whole thing was in the 11th hour, Amy's like, I've been to, 2 psychiatrists, I've been to, dozens of doctors, they say that I'm not crazy, but, I don't believe... that I'm crazy, but Mel's, everybody apparently is just letting Mel's get away with this shit.
I mean, she's a lot more confident about it. She's just or she's either doing it, she's either more confident about it, or she's doing it to make fun of Amy, right? She's standing up in class and being like, well, this is what the Doctor said, and wink, wink at Amy, your imaginary friend is now being satirized by me, haha.
She's clearly not making fun of Amy for it, though, because she genuinely believes that. And I think that's not because Amy told her about the Doctor. I think that's because of the weird mental conditioning that the Church of the Silent was doing and
You
whatever.
also, yeah, I mean, you also question, once she regenerates, you also question, like, how much she really knew. Because I think she knew a lot more than you might think in these scenes, you know?
I'm going to disappoint you right now, but we never find out.
Well, to jump ahead a little bit, she specifically became friends and, like, kind of set up Amy and Rory together because of who she is, you know?
Well, I'm going to disappoint you right now, but we will never meet Mel's again.
Yeah, well, obviously. But
In fact, I'm pretty sure she's never actually mentioned again, even.
Well, how much of, you know, what she knew was subconscious versus conscious is speculation territory, I guess. But just to dial it back a little bit, I forgot that there is a recap of the first half of the season before any of this.
Oh, yeah.
And this was, you know, you sort of criticized the little opening sequence with the narration from Amy before, but this was a bigger offender, in my opinion, because this, like, this was like, is this trying to recap A Good Man Goes to War? Or is it like trying to recap the entire 6-7 episodes? Or like, what's it trying to do? What's it trying to be? Is it trying to go all the way back to 1963 and recap everything?
No, that's a no.
No, but it was a very messy recap, in my opinion. I still like the Amy narration. I like it.
Surprised that you haven't torn your hair out at this point.
But anyway, yeah, Mel's. Never heard of her before. Never hear of her again.
I don't think she actually sets up Amy and Rory. The way that she talks about finding Amy and Rory rather than looking for them explicitly makes me think that her finding them was nothing more than a coincidence.
A coincidence or like a subconscious thing, like somehow she's drawn to them or something
perhaps,
like that.
But I guess my point is she didn't do it consciously.
Yeah, there's definitely... This is an episode that I think... This is the episode that really made me think this, and this is something I want to talk more about at the end, but there's a lot more rewatchability to Doctor Who now in this era than there ever has been. But we'll touch more on that at the end.
I think it's rewatchable for different reasons, but yeah, we'll touch upon that in the end. But part of this flashback is... I feel so bad for Rory, because all Mel's and Amy do is shit all over Rory.
Well, we see them as little children, and even at that period of their lives, like, Rory was getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I started to wonder why Rory was sticking around, like, dude, you can do better than this, like, shouldn't marry someone who's been who's been literally bullying you for your entire life.
Yeah, I guess you just had no other friends.
Stockholm syndrome going on there, maybe.
Yep.
Because, like, he comes out and he's like, I thought we were playing hide and go seek. I've been hiding for, like, an hour. And they're like, we just haven't found you yet. Go back and hide.
And they're obviously not playing hide and seek anymore.
And then, like, later on at the school, at lunch, he's got his eyes closed. He's like, hey, are you playing the game? And they just kind of walk by and go, yes, Roy, we're coming. And they just walk by and leave him. I'm like, what?
And then we get one of the most awkward scenes in Doctor Who history. You can cut the tension in the air with a knife.
Well, because Mel says this really irritating thing that I guess is supposed to be a catchphrase where she's like, pennies in the air, right before there's a big reveal, and then right after the big reveal, she's like, and the penny drops. And it's like, please stop. Because she says it now, and she says it later when she regenerates.
She does it in a more serious way later on.
But, like, Amy's like, oh, you know, I'm not really looking for a man. And Rory's like, yeah, you know.
Rory's just like having a heart attack. He's trying to walk out. He's having like a heart attack.
Mel's like, oh my god, you two. And Amy's like, I mean, I don't want Rory because, like, you know, he's gay. And Rory's like, what?
Well, God, I don't... They say this at the same time. Rory goes just a friend and Amy goes gay, and they say that at the same time.
Rory's like, wait, what? I'm not gay. And she's like, when have you ever shown attention to a woman? And I was like, well, thinking in my head, when's he ever shown attention to a man by that logic either?
When have we seen Rory, like, ever hanging out with or paying attention to anyone except Amy?
His bachelor party that the Doctor crashed when Amy tried to kiss him. And the Doctor popped out of the cake and is like, there's a very nice lady outside. Her name is, like, whatever. Yeah. There's, like, a whole bunch of people there. And they, like, even got him a shirt and everything. It said, like, Rory Stag.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Kind of like how I want to forget about this scene.
Yeah, well, anyway, Rory runs out and he's like, yeah, I'm not gay. And he leaves. And then Amy's like, well, what woman? And Mel's is like, oh my god, you freaking dense piece of lead.
From Leadworth. Actually from Scotland.
Then Amy's like, oh.
I mean, this was, I can't believe I'm saying this now, but was kind of nice. And like, this is the scene where Amy realizes that Rory, is interested in her romantically or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like the start of all of this, the start of River Song.
Rory went through a lot for this. Rory went through a lot just to get laid. It's
but
true,
then,
though.
Yeah, but then once you realize who Mel's is, you're like, all right, their daughters like pushed them together, and
not only that, they named
herself.
her daughter after her daughter.
Yeah, doesn't get more Steven Moffat than this.
I beg to differ. So basically, Mel's commandeers the TARDIS and shoots it, and the Doctor's like, what the hell? She's like, you said we couldn't fire weapons in here. And he's like, that was a clever lie. Everybody knows that was a clever lie. She's like, well, so clearly it wasn't.
So the TARDIS is leaking poisonous gas.
Meanwhile, in Berlin, in the Third Reich, we see a janitor chase down
Eric Zimmerman.
Eric Zimmerman.
He's a real person, right?
Nazi officer.
Eric Zimmerman is a real person. I didn't look this up, but I probably should have. I think he is.
It's a common name. Eric Zimmerman is a game designer and CEO of Game Lab. Maybe that's the Eric Zimmerman you're thinking of.
Spell it with an H. Try that.
Eric Zimmerman, resource economist, was born in Germany 1888 and died in Austin, United States of America in 1961.
Oh man, he was like an escapee or whatever. One of those, not tried in the Nuremberg trial. I don't know. When were the Nuremberg trials? The 80s, I think?
Was it that late?
Oh, no, it couldn't have been that late. It must have been like the
60s.
60s or 70s.
I'm sure it was the 60s. Well, basically now, this janitor is like trying to scan the guy, and we get this scene where this lady goes up to the eyeball and looks through the eyeball, but she gets confronted by these antibodies first.
Right, there are a bunch of miniature people inside this guy controlling him, kind of like that Eddie Murphy movie. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Kind of like Inside Out.
Yeah, but those are like emotions. These are like actual people.
Yeah, but those emotions like control the people in that movie.
Yeah, just like real life.
I mean, yes.
Just personified.
I have made far more bad decisions when I'm emotionally judging things than when I sit back and do it logically. So you know what? I'm going to go with yes.
Well, there's that one line of thinking that says the only rational way to behave is to act on your emotions.
That's a curious way to think.
I don't know too much about it. Because it's honestly not that interesting, but yeah, it's out there.
Interesting. I'm skeptical of that line of thinking.
I'm skeptical of the configuration of reason versus emotion versus logic and all of that anyway. But whatever, that's another story. Anyway, there's a bunch of miniature people inside this guy controlling him, and they can shapeshift as well.
Yeah, the big robot, not the guys inside,
yeah,
not the people inside.
Right.
Pronoun reference error.
The people inside are actual organic human beings, just miniaturized.
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily humans. I don't think we actually know.
Right. Humanoids, rather.
But then, yeah, this lady goes to the eyeball, and we get this kind of awkward scene where this robot's like, I'm going to kill you now. And then she hears over the comms, haven't you updated your permission? She's like, yeah, I have. And then she shows her.
Fiddling with her watch. She's like, yep, I did it. I was prepared.
She shows the watch to the antibody and is like, okay, you can live. She's like, thanks.
We don't see the antibodies in this scene. We see them later on.
Yeah.
They look really cool. Really cool.
They remind me of that robot in the Fallout series, the Fallout video game. The robot that is the butler house guy. It looks exactly like this. Series. Put a picture in the show notes.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of the Toclafane to an extent, kind of.
I read that this looks similar to a robot that we're going to get in the future of the show that they were already planning, and then they redesigned it because it looked too similar.
Yeah, this was supposed to originally be like a humanoid shape that was all gray and metallic, and Moffat was like, that looks too similar to ones that I have later on in the season. Can we redesign them? So, this robot, it's called the Tesselector, transforms into a copy of Zimmerman, then takes his glasses, since I guess they were like too lazy to copy the glasses. It really
can create matter.
I was going to say, it really is just a matter of being too lazy, because later on they create an entire motorbike, so... And then they beam Zimmerman into the head, and then he dies, I guess.
Dies at the hands of the antibodies.
Yeah, which they just let happen, I suppose.
Or actually, I think in hindsight, he's taken away by them to be tortured.
No, he gets killed because they're like... Because he gets he gets vaporized because they're like, it's normal to experience fear when you're being terminated, and then they kill him. Because Eric Zimmerman wasn't who they were there for to hunt, which is why they didn't take him away to torture him. But then they just kind of... The Tesselector busts into Hitler's office and is like, hey, Hitler. And he's like...
You're going to pay for your crimes.
And they're like, oh shit, we're 2 years too early.
Right, there's sort of... I don't think these characters are ever really named on screen, but there's sort of a captain.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if he's necessarily a second in command, but there's one other character that they focus on.
I guess we could just check the credits. Well, they have names, but, I don't know who's who. Probably, I don't know. His captain and his first officer. But they're about to they're doing something to Hitler. They're like, about this blue beam, and then all of a sudden the TARDIS crashes through the wall and knocks Zimmerman Tesselector over. And
at this point in the episode, I was like, all right, there seems to be a lot going on here. I like it. I like how much is going on here, but is the Hitler stuff really the thing to have going on in this episode with so much other stuff going on?
Well, Moffat said yes. I disagree.
Moffat has also come out and said that he threw the Hitler stuff in and had the title Let's Kill Hitler as sort of a red herring, like made you look type thing where like the episode isn't really actually about Hitler. Wow. Yeah.
Makes me dislike the title a lot. Until now, I was pretty apathetic about it, but now I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's called Let's Kill Hitler, because, the episode really is not about killing Hitler to any large extent.
To any extent at all, because now the Doctor orders Rory to shove Hitler in the closet.
Yeah. Well, Hitler stands up when the TARDIS crashes through the window, and it looks like he's about to shoot Zimmerman, but he actually shoots Mel's. And he also goes like, hey, thanks for saving me. I don't know who you are, but you guys just saved my life. And the Doctor's like, I don't really want to be this person.
I don't think he intentionally shoots Mel's. I think it's more the case he shoots Zimmerman and misses.
Yeah, that's what I meant if I didn't make that clear. So thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Also, there's a weird thing I watched these episodes with the captions on, and when Amy first sees Hitler, she walks up to him and says, "Is that?" And then she trails off. But the subtitles say, "What's up?" So it looks like she's walking up to Hitler and being like, "What's up?"
What's up, Hitler? Sieg Heil, my dude.
God. So very bad error there.
Is it? I think it's funny. Maybe the original script had her going, "What's up?" Except I don't know why it would. But the Doctor has Roy put Hitler in the cupboard, and he's like, okay, I'll put Hitler in the cupboard, putting Hitler in the cupboard.
Roy's like, really didn't think this is what I was going to be doing today.
Yeah, Roy is the unsung hero of the story, because he's the one who's just going like, man, today's been really weird. Just as the story's constantly getting weirder, Roy's the one guy who takes a moment to go, you know what? This is really weird.
You know what? This is some whacked out shit.
You know what? This is whack.
This is my life now.
Then he goes along with it. But then again, later on, he pauses again and goes, you know what? This is really whack. And I really appreciate a character in a story who just sits down and goes, you know what? None of this makes sense.
You gotta wonder how much Rory regrets marrying Amy. There has to be some seed of regret in his mind.
Yeah, you really have to wonder if, like, in his mind, if how hot Amy is to him outweighs, like, all the nonsense she's put him through. Like, that or she's really good in bed. I don't know, but...
God.
Poor Rory. Or Rory's just the most loving, kind, compassionate person in the universe.
You know what? I kind of want to go with the latter there. If it's one or the other type thing.
It could be all three.
But I mean, Rory has really become more like Mickey on sort of a more serious note.
Yeah. Which Mickey? Early Mickey or late Mickey?
I mean,
early dragged along,
like
bumbling fool Mickey.
I mean, he's almost the same character.
Yeah,
in a way. And Amy is kind of almost Rose as well, which is okay.
It's Steven Moffat does Russell T. Yeah. When you really think about it.
Yeah, actually, a lot of this era really is like, all right, how do I put my own spin on what new Doctor Who was established to be? Which is, I think, a good thing. I think a good way to approach the show.
Yeah,
can sometimes get a little grating in certain ways. But overall, it's interesting, at least.
It's interesting. Sometimes I wish Moffat had just stopped trying to fit himself into this mold and had just done what Russell T did and just reinvent the show completely.
Well, we've talked about this before, but Steven Moffat's scripts are often convoluted and often overly convoluted.
Right.
But he is a good writer. I mean, I want to make that clear. I think he's a good writer.
Mm-hmm. He just needs some polishing, I think, a lot of the time.
Just needs some polishing. And I think the thing is, he would be a good writer without all, I guess this is just his trademark, but if he sits down and writes like a story with maybe some of this weird stuff, but not too overboard, like that's a good story.
Yeah,
I think you get a good story out of that.
I mean, I've been thinking this ever since I watched this era for the first time, and it's a bit of a digression, but I've been thinking this ever since I watched this. Everybody's like, Moffat sucks. I'm like, well, no, I think Moffat is actually a really good writer. I think where Moffat starts to kind of lose steam later on is actually in his ideas, and that he starts to run out of ideas. I mean, I think the scripts themselves are like still good, but I think at some point he's just like kind of burning himself out on ideas, and I think that partially comes down to maybe him making the show so quickly or taking on so many scripts by himself, but I do think he's a good writer.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I just realized this, and the thing is, Moffat's stories, if you put them back to back, remind me of reading like a short story collection by a single author, where each story is like its own individual thing, but they're all also usually, because books of short stories are often thematically connected, have similar points or similar themes and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is, I mean, I think people find that more acceptable in that type of format because the stories aren't technically like canonically connected to each other.
Right.
Whereas in Doctor Who, this is sort of just one running thing, one show. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of maybe easier or more valid for people to point out, well, this is the same exact thing that happened to them last week, or the same exact thing that happened to them whenever it happened,
Right.
But anyway.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Something I want to talk about more when we get to the end of his era. Because his era, in my opinion, can be broken up into three pretty distinct phases. Phase 1 is like the 11th Doctor, and then I think the 12th Doctor can be split into two sub-phases. I definitely think Series 9 was Moffat's strongest by far, but I think conceptually Series 10 was Moffat's strongest.
Huh. Well, this is a very beloved era of Doctor Who. As much as I think people who really dislike this era are very vocal.
Yeah.
But I think the general consensus is that this is a really good era of Doctor Who.
I mean, there are people like that for the Russell T era. There are people like that for the Hinchcliffe and Holmes era. So,
yeah,
like that era is incredibly beloved. But there are people out there who are like, no, Holmes sucks. Everything Holmes wrote turned to garbage. Which is a good time to bring up that the War Games was actually written by Malcolm Hoke and not Robert Holmes. And
right,
we've been kindly informed by someone.
Yeah, we've been saying that the War Games was written by Robert Holmes both on this podcast and our Blake 7 podcast, Zenith, for like months, and that's just not true.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Mel's regenerates. She makes reference that confirms that she was the little girl who regenerated at the end of Day of the Moon. She says, last time I did this, I was just a little girl in New York. So, nice confirmation there. And she regenerates into River Song.
Right, the River Song that we know and love? Question mark. But this is her beginning. Yeah. Not only is she a little unhinged because of the regeneration, she's also a little unhinged because of her directive to kill the Doctor.
And there's this scene...
straight out of Sherlock.
This scene is straight out of Sherlock, and like the last one that was straight out of Sherlock, feels so out of place.
Oh, yeah.
The last one I'm referring to, the one in A Christmas Carol, where he like makes all these deductions based on the painting hanging on the wall. And this is like, we see the Doctor's like already accounted for all of River's moves, but she knew the Doctor was going to, so she had all these backup moves planned. And then it's kind of just, they keep revealing more and more about how they knew what the other person was going to do in this whole thing. Like, River reaches for a gun.
The Doctor turns the bowl around and she picks up a banana instead.
Yeah, well, what happens, the whole sequence
the banana was loaded. No.
She reaches for a gun on a chair, but the Doctor's emptied the bullets out of the gun while Mel's was regenerating, and then River makes her way over to the table, and she reaches for the gun in the bowl that the Doctor put there earlier, which is the gun that Mel's brought, but the Doctor spins the ball, so she picks up the banana instead, but then River kisses the Doctor, and, well, that's the end of that. It's interesting. She says something like, "It was never going to be a bullet for you, Doctor," which is interesting given the events of Day of the Moon and Impossible Astronaut, where the Doctor does die by being shot.
Right. She has this other line that I think is right before that, where she goes, the Doctor is, he's totally knowledgeable about every, art of war, like every component of warfare. Mm-hmm. So this is the only way I could, get to him.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
She decides to jump out the window, and then the Doctor collapses and like, damn, should have seen that coming.
Yeah, so just side note real quick, because I really disliked this scene. I think you did as well, but like, and you watched Sherlock, right? So do you like this type of thing in Sherlock? Because I don't, and it's one of the many reasons why I dislike Sherlock.
I think it works in Sherlock because that's like, it's kind of the conceit of the show, I guess, is that Sherlock knows what's going to happen and he can figure it all out. Right, so to see all of that, in my opinion, the reason why I enjoy watching mystery television is either in the cases where you see the villain commit the crime is to watch kind of the process that they go to find out, or if you don't know who's committed this crime, to watch like as this person deduces all these things that like someone who wasn't paying attention would never pick up on. That's why I like this in Sherlock. In Sherlock, specifically, because Sherlock is supposed to be, he's not a Time Lord who can travel through time. He's just a guy who happens to be really intelligent, who picks up on these things until we get to freaking season 3 and 4, and then freaking Moffat and Gatiss jack themselves off for 6 episodes. But in Sherlock, I think it works because it's like the whole point of the episode is to build to this. It's kind of like the building to the big reveal, and then this is the reveal, and they build up to it through the whole episode. In Doctor Who, it's like it just comes out of nowhere, and it's like there's no payoff, first off, to the scene, except that River can't kill the Doctor because the Doctor's already accounted for all their moves. But there's no build-up to the scene either. It comes like completely out of nowhere.
Maybe establishes some sort of, link between the Doctor and River, like they're both trying out, like they both can read each other's moves because they're just that in sync or whatever.
I mean, I get that, but like the way this is shot and the way it's written is very Sherlock, and because of that, it feels super out of place. Like there's ways that you could show like what you're saying without it being like this, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really disliked this part of the episode. The more I think about it, the more this episode was more than the sum of its parts to me, because I disliked a lot of the individual pieces of it, but I just felt like it was a good episode overall.
That's a completely valid opinion that I disagree with. I disliked almost all the parts, and I disliked the episode as a whole. And I'm just, frankly, glad to be done with it.
Anyway, the Doctor's dying, and he has 32 minutes left to live, but Rory and Amy go off after their daughter.
Well, the Doctor tells them to.
Yeah.
Because the Tesselecta also goes after them, because there's a scene where the Tesselecta's like, we recognize that blue box. And they're like, well, what is it? And he's like, it's the traveling mode of the Doctor. And then they're like, if you want to catch the biggest war criminal in all of history, it's her, which I thought both this time and the last time I watched it, that was like a reference to the Doctor regenerating into a woman in the future. But then next time we cut to the Tesselecta, they're actually talking about River Song because she kills the Doctor.
Yeah, but they also scan the Doctor and find out that he is like on their lists as well.
Well, they're chasing down River because she kills the Doctor. And that's why they're going after her, not the Doctor.
Yeah. River's like a higher priority. But they scan the Doctor, they see the Doctor's date of death. And they're like, the Doctor shouldn't be dying right now.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They're like, well, he's supposed to die at Lake Silencio. And then we've gotten like most of them off in there without this Russell T creation, but one of them goes and is like, it's a fixed point in time. It can't be changed. He has to die at Lake Silencio no matter what happens. So,
Yeah, gotta just pull that out of your back pocket whenever you need it. That's what every Doctor Who writer does.
I guess. And they chase after River, and that's why Amy and Rory go after River as well, because they're like, well, gotta make sure that they don't kill River.
Right. This is another moment where like they hop on a bike that
The Teslector.
because Rory, again, this is the sequence of events here. Rory and Amy, River kills a bunch of people.
Well, she knocks him
And-
out.
Yeah, she knocks him out with her regeneration
power.
juice.
Yeah.
And a cop comes up to Amy and Rory and he's like, what's going on here? Like, what did you guys do? And Rory's just like, knocks him out, jumps on the bike, has another moment of like, I have no idea what's going on, but let's just go.
But then the guy gets up, and then it's the Teslector, and he's like, next time, let's just recreate the bike as well. I have a question about how River got, like, poisonous lipstick on her lips when she had just regenerated, which changed everything about her, which means that she regenerated with poisonous lips?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Her clothes
Yeah, her clothes are the same,
don't change, which they shouldn't.
which is consistent with
Yeah.
every regeneration we've ever seen.
No, consistent with all of them but one. The first Doctor, the second Doctor, the clothes changed.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's true, though. They did. That's why we never got a scene of the second Doctor rummaging through, like, the closet or something looking for clothes, because they changed already. But then we get the third Doctor in the shower in that hospital
yeah.
when he steals that coat from someone. And then I guess has a whole bunch more made up because he changes colors later on. Unless he's just stealing them all from this guy's house.
From the same guy,
The same
tracking
guy.
down the same guy every time.
The time for a new outfit. And the guy's like, why do all my freaking opera capes go missing? But River's looking for something new to wear, so she basically holds up a restaurant in like a hotel, tells them all to take the clothes off, and they all run out, and Rory's like outside like, how are we going to know where River's gone? And they just see this mass of people running out of this building. He's like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, River's really sparing no expense, right? She goes to the, most high-end place to steal clothes. None of that, no cheap clothes for her,
Well, when the guards stop her, she says something like, oh, I was just on my way to a gay, what was it? A gay bar mitzvah.
Gypsy
a
bar
gay,
mitzvah
yeah,
for
a disabled kid. And then I was thinking, man, the Third Reich really sucks. And they're like, well,
Shoot her.
just kill her. And the Doctor in the TARDIS is looking for voice interface.
Just to dial it back a little bit, not dial it back, just to turn back the clock a little bit. Gypsy, again, I feel like we should point out, is like a racial slur. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in the context in which the Nazis used it in.
Yeah. Just wanted to point that out.
The Doctor, there's an interesting line here because the voice interface shows up and the Doctor says, get me someone I don't hate, which I think is interesting. The Doctor, Moffat doesn't lay off of this, the Doctor having a sort of self-hatred kind of thing going on.
Yeah. So we see Rose let her go. And then we also see Martha and Donna.
It's funny because Rose pops up and the Doctor goes, no, that's guilt. And then Martha pops up, he's like, no, more guilt. And then Donna pops up, he's like, no, still guilt. He's like, surely there's someone in this universe I haven't completely messed up.
And then we get young Amy Pond. Not like the Amy Pond the Doctor's traveling with now. No, young Amy Pond.
Amelia.
Right, Amelia.
And he's like, oh, Amelia. And he talks with Amelia for a bit, and she's just like, you will die in 32 minutes. He's like, surely there's a cure. And she's like, nope, you will die in 32 minutes. And he's like, you're useless. And she's like, you will die in 32 minutes.
He's talking to her as if she's the real Amelia
Yeah.
and not just an interface. And he mentions fish fingers and custard, which the interface responds to, I think.
Well, he just asks, surely there has to be something in there that you can tell me. And she says, fish fingers and custard. And he's like, fish fingers and custard.
Which I guess gives him the emotional strength he needs to get back on his feet and change.
He's given his sonic screwdriver to Amy and Rory, who now get sucked up by the Teslector.
Yeah.
And then they get given bracelets so that they don't get killed by the antibody because they're not criminals. So
Right. We see the antibodies and they look really cool. They look like floating jellyfish robots
yeah,
with guns.
they got lots of little tentacles coming out the bottom that, kind of hold the gun / zap people. It looks like they kind of get electrified right before they kill.
The guns kind of come out as tentacles in a way.
Yeah. They look really cool, though.
Yeah,
I like them. The CG in this episode, by the way, was really good. I want to mention the CG of the Teslector changing from the janitor into Eric Zimmerman. I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, all of the visuals in this were great. There's a scene at the beginning that's used as a transition, actually, and it's Mel's throwing the little papier-mâché TARDIS or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it transitions into the TARDIS, like hurtling through the sky, and that was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. That was definitely my favorite part of this episode. This is actually the first time that this director has directed a full-length television episode. What was his name? Richard Jr., I think it was.
Senior, I think.
Senior. Sorry, you're right. Richard Senior. This is his first time directing a full-length TV episode. Until this point, he'd only directed shorts and kind of little... He directed Time and Space for Red Nose Day, I think, in 2011. And then this was his first kind of like major directorial effort. And I think he did a good job.
Yeah, definitely.
But Amy and Roy get sucked up by the Teslector, and then the Doctor lands and gets out of the TARDIS, and he kind of goes, I'm still alive, but then he collapses over immediately.
He has a sonic cane.
Yeah, that was...
Oh, you don't like the sonic cane?
Do
Love
you?
the sonic cane.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, I like it, I guess.
He uses it to scan the Teslector, and he's like, wow, you're a robot. And they're like, yeah. He's like, what do you guys do? And then this is when they explain that they basically go through time hunting down notorious criminals and then right at the very end of their life take them out of time and give them unimaginable hell.
Well, people, they say, who didn't pay for their crimes adequately.
Yeah.
Which is why they're after Hitler.
Which is why they're after River Song, I guess. They start, like, agonizing her.
Yeah, she's sort of trapped in a beam that hurts her and is also meant to capture her, I guess.
Yeah, and the Doctor's like, stop, and they stop because Amy reveals that she's River's mom, and that gives her familial privileges that apparently the Teslector, like, obeys.
Well, it gives her the privilege to look at the records.
Because the Doctor wants to know when he's supposed to die.
Yeah. But then Amy uses
and he wants to know who's trying to kill him as well.
Yeah, so we get this scene, which I thought was really cool and is setting up the rest of the season, which we find out the Silents are back with a vengeance.
Well, they never went anywhere.
Yeah, they never went anywhere. They've
Especially
always
since
been
Madame
there.
Kavarian last week was like, I'm going to get you. I've got the baby now.
I mean, they've been there since the beginning of time, really.
But basically, the Church of the Silence, this is when you find out it's a church, properly, a religious order, I think it's called.
Yeah.
They believe that silence will fall across the universe when the question is asked, and the Doctor's like, well, which question? Like, the oldest question in the universe, the question that must never be answered. And he's like, well, what question is that? And then there's this music swell as you think you're about to learn, but then that would be too easy because there'd be no overarching plot line. They're like, unknown.
Well, this also reminds me of the oldest text in the universe, which was from, I don't remember, Pandorka Opens, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The graffiti that says, hello, sweetie.
Yes.
And says Theta Sigma.
Yeah. But we don't know.
Moffat.
We don't know what the question is. This is cool. I really like this sort of setup.
Right.
I'm looking for the oldest question in the universe.
Don't get your hopes up.
Oh, I'm getting them up. They're already up. They're already sky high. Nothing can bring them down now. And I know they're going to come crashing down. I know they are, as they always do.
So why do you get them up then?
I can't help it. It's just that good of a setup. Because it's literary, in a way.
In a way. I'll tell you that,
And it's...
interestingly, the oldest question in the universe was actually asked in this episode.
Was it what's up when...
Yeah, it's what's up. What's up, dudes? The Doctor pleads with them to spare River because... And she's like, who's River? Because she still thinks she's Melody at this point.
Oh, man, it's probably just Doctor Who. Man, that's going to be lame.
And...
That's going to be really lame when it ends up being right.
The the doctor is like, please spare River, and Melody doesn't understand, and the doctor is in his final 2 minutes, and he calls Melody over and he's like, I need you to find River's song and give her this message for me, and he whispers something in her ear and she's like, okay, I will. And he commands her before that, actually. He commands her to save Amy and Rory because he's like, they're your mom and dad. You should save them.
Right.
Amy uses the sonic screwdriver to deactivate everybody's security clearance, so the antibodies start chasing everybody down. And they all beam out.
And do all these people die? I don't know.
Well, they all teleport out. I don't know how many people, if any, actually die, but all the people on the bridge survive.
Yeah.
Then we get the scene that made me question, can the TARDIS shrink? With a question mark. Because the TARDIS materializes inside the eye of the Teslecta at the right height for Amy and Rory to enter.
Right, so I mean, this isn't something that's ever really been brought up explicitly, but you gotta think, all the planets that they've been to aren't necessarily, Earth-size. And all the civilizations...
Brought up once.
When was it brought up?
Don't you remember Planet of the Giants?
Oh, right.
When they traveled with the door open and it caused them to shrink because of, time pressure or something?
Yeah, so I guess that established right away that the TARDIS isn't supposed to do this, but it's also really strange to think that all the civilizations that they've traveled to are human-sized.
Kind of like when we talked about on Zenith, how when Blake and his crew went onto the Liberator, it was really convenient that all the controls were human-sized. Because that is a massive ship that could have been manned by people 3 times Blake's size.
Well, the system we find out in Series B are human-sized, so... They just build really big stuff.
But I was just kind of like, can the TARDIS shrink?
Yep, can now.
I guess it can. They interesting things that they don't even make mention of this. They just kind of go with it.
Yeah, maybe Rory internally is like, hey, wait a minute. You know what? Whatever.
They're always like, you know what? I'm over it. I just give up. Trying to understand today, I give up.
So they get out.
Yeah, they hop out. This
River
is
saved, but the doctor is still dying.
And then he dies. He's dead.
Yep.
Completely dead. Doesn't regenerate. He just dies.
Then River walks over and gives him some time juice.
Well, no, you're forgetting the most important scene where Melody's like, who is this River song that the doctor seems to be clearly in love with and seems to exalt. And Amy's talks to the Teslecta because nobody's manning it, and she asks if she still has familial privileges, and it says yes, and she said, can you show me the current form of River Song? And it transforms into, River. And then Melody's kind of like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, I loved this entire sequence with this and then River going over to save the doctor because of the raw emotion in it. And I mean, I think Murray Gold's soundtrack adds to this scene so much.
Part of the emotion is in Murray Gold's soundtrack in this scene.
Yeah. I loved this. This is one of my favorite sequences in a long while.
Huh. Interesting. I thought it was all right. Just kind of like, okay. I jive with it. I jive with it. And she kind of gives up all the rest of her regenerations, apparently to bring the doctor back to life. He's like, why would you do that? And she's like, Amy and Rory said you were worth it.
My parents told me to.
Yeah. And then they kind of just leave. In fact, they leave River behind, too.
The doctor gives River... Again, Steven Moffat can't go 2 seconds without writing in a paradox. The doctor gives River the notebook.
Yeah, he drops her off in the greatest hospital in the universe to heal. She's apparently sick, I guess.
Should have dropped her off in New York.
Yeah.
With Sister, what's her face?
Your sister, whatever her name was. And the guy who had the disease that kills you in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Who must have been really lucky because he was in the hospital when he got it, like we say every time we talk about him. And he gives her the diary, the TARDIS diary. Yeah, Steven Moffat introducing another paradox, but, whatever.
There are a couple paradoxes in this, and I think some of them are just...
There are many paradoxes in this.
Some of them are just, and I want to get into this a little bit in just a few minutes, but some of them are speculative.
The name River Song itself is a paradox.
Yeah, that's what we learn.
Moffat. Can you at least try keep your time travel straight?
This is where it starts getting really this is where the Dr. River timeline starts getting really messed up.
As if it wasn't before now.
No, I don't think it was as complicated as it is now.
No, I agree. Before now, it was pretty clearly they were going in reverse order to each other. But this one is clearly the one that completely throws a wrench in that. And completely, like, at the beginning of the season, River's like, our meetings are always in reverse order, which is completely, like, proven false by this episode.
Liar.
Freaking lying through her teeth.
No, but I really like this. And, if someone had described this era to me before I watched it, I would have been like, well, that's freaking garbage. Like, that's going to suck. But I actually really like how convoluted it is. I want to see how far this can go.
Just you wait. Just you
That's
wait.
That's why I love the moment where it's like, oh, Mel's is River. Wouldn't that be a shock if Mel Bush was River?
Yeah, that would have been the biggest twist if they brought back Bonnie Langford for one episode and all she did was run around for 20 minutes and then die and regenerate into River.
What they should have done is just flash back to literally every companion and then River's like, yep, that was me.
Including Tolo.
Yeah.
And Adric.
And Chameleon.
And most importantly, Adric.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Adric, like, always selling out the Doctor was just River following her directive to kill the Doctor. But no, I mean, like, on a serious note, I actually really did like that moment where it's like, oh man, this is like so over-the-top, convoluted, head up its own, insert whatever you want here, that I just love it. Because I think this era, for better or worse, introduces two things that haven't necessarily been a big thing you could do with Doctor Who in the past, which is speculation and rewatchability. Mm-hmm. Rewatchability, I think, is fairly obvious. Even in this episode, I was reading there are ways in which things are framed and lines that are callbacks to earlier episodes, and I didn't notice most of them.
I didn't notice any.
But some of them are to indicate that Mel's is River. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing and a lot of it subtle in this era.
I mean, I actually don't think a lot of the Steven Moffat era episodes, finales and premieres specifically, are rewatchable. I don't think they are. I don't necessarily think. I think this is rewatchable, but I think it starts to lose its rewatchability a lot quicker than a lot of other episodes.
Really? Huh. That's interesting.
Because I feel like once you know what's coming... The thing is, the reason why I say that is because, like, the point of this episode is to reveal that Mel's is River. Like, that is the point, so to speak, in my opinion, of this episode. So rewatching it is like, I already know Mel's is River. So I'm not getting anything out of the episode. I'm not really getting enjoyment because I already know the reveal that's coming and I have to sit through these scenes that I personally just don't like.
Yeah, but I mean, the way I look at it is, yeah, because you know of this reveal or whatever, and I don't know if I would say that that's the, quote, point or whatever, but I mean, that's a different story. But because you know all these things, you get the little hints that are thrown in there.
I mean, I agree with that, but I think those hints are more spread out over the whole season rather than contained in this one episode.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm talking about
which is why I feel like this episode
whole,
is not as rewatchable as it seems.
Maybe not this one. I would say this one, but
this being my rewatch, I can say that personally I enjoyed this less on a rewatch than I did the first time because it didn't have that impact of finding out that Mel's was River.
Yeah, you definitely lose some of the like shock factor or whatever, and depending on the episode, that's either going to be made up where like you can get clued into all the little hints and be like, oh, that's what that was referencing, or something, or not. But I think it just maybe depends on the episode and how much you enjoyed it, because again, since I liked this enough to rewatch it again, I think I would just enjoy watching it anyway.
Then you should rewatch it before next week and give your opinion on it.
No.
Why not? Why not?
Because I watch these episodes like 2 hours before we record them. And I'm always in the state of like, oh shoot, didn't watch Blake 7 and Doctor Who, gotta do that now. But this era, I think, also is good for speculation. Because of the overarchingness of it. And I mean, I'm sitting here watching these for the first time being like, all right, so wait a minute. And that's mostly from, I think Last Good Man Goes to War was good for that, with the sort of two factions thing, which I still think is a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Russell T era had that speculation ability as well. I think that is simply tied into how well someone does an overarching plotline and not necessarily into what the overarching plotline is. Torchwood was like, there wasn't a lot of speculation there because in episode 2 of the season in Tooth and Claw, we found out Torchwood was founded by Queen Victoria and like they were hunting the Doctor. Like that was it. Like no speculation, but like Bad Wolf was kind of too subtle to pick up on and be like, oh, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Same with the missing planets, but like if you pick up on those Bad Wolf kind of things and you go through the season watching, you're like, oh, like what's going to happen here? What's going to happen there?
But even Bad Wolf wasn't as good as this, because here we're getting set up like the Silence are looking for this question.
Well, also like the Mr.
stuff with
Saxon
River Song.
plotline, which I think was Russell T's strongest in terms of speculation. Like the Mr. Saxon one, I think had a lot of speculation. Like the first episode, you see these posters of like vote Saxon, and then a couple episodes later, you hear like Martha's mom talking about, oh, I met with Mr. Saxon or whatever, and you hear all these things about Mr. Saxon, and then you get this. You kind of wonder throughout the season who's Mr. Saxon and why is he so important to the season.
And this all goes back to the show losing its episodic nature. As it goes on, it is slowly losing. Its episodic nature. Which in the classic show, there wasn't nearly as much room for speculation, I think, unless you just want to go like fan theory type stuff, like who even is the Doctor if you want to pull from early enough stuff.
They tried to kind of do that with the Seventh Doctor, if you remember, where they tried to make him really mysterious in that final season, where, he was talking about, oh, me and some other guys had the Hand of Omega once upon a time, the Hand of Rassilon, and kind of all those subtle hints that the Doctor was more than who he was saying. Just kind of bones they were throwing to the Doctor Who fan club when you really think about it. But I think introducing an overarching plot, I think just by its like definition requires, or at least
opens it up
to speculation.
Yeah.
Thinking back to even like the Key to Time arc, we were thinking the whole time, it's like, how's this going to end? What's going to happen when he actually assembles the whole key?
Talk about a moment of getting our hopes up for no reason.
Or Trial of a Time Lord, like how is this trial going to end? Who is the Valyard? Like why is he so intent on killing the Doctor?
Right.
So I think that's just like almost like a side effect of having an overarching plotline is that speculation will be more easily accessible.
Yeah, and I think the Moffat era does it better than any other era of the show because of how prevalent it all is.
I would agree with that. I think.
I mean, like I said last week, I think Good Man Goes to War has the best cliffhanger in all of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
If you don't count the Welcome to the Sanctuary thing. No, I'm just kidding. Still think that's a good cliffhanger.
Up to this point, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because, like we said, it opens up pathways. It's interesting that this episode doesn't pick up right from there. It has like an actual 6-month time jump.
Yeah.
Like, I think corresponding to the actual real-time jump of like 83 days or whatever between Good Man Goes to War and this, which would have been about 3 months. So, kind of weird. But I actually don't have anything else to say about this episode. I didn't really like it that much on a rewatch. My opinion hasn't changed.
Well, all right.
Do you have anything else?
No, other than like I loved it, no.
Well, did one of us get it wrong? You can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angriness, love letters, and let us know if one of us is just wrong.
Right, because as we established a couple weeks ago, opinions can be wrong. We found out. We confirmed it for sure.
Oh boy, someone's gonna email in and be like, I think Let's Kill Hitler is just a middle of the road episode, and neither of you are right, and that's valid too. Maybe. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you liked the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching Night Terrors, but until then, the end.